So the title of the exhibition is Another Me, and I arrived at that title really through two angles. One sort of idea that the self can transcend the environment that it's in. And a lot of these works really showed me the power of the human imagination to not be confined to one, set of circumstances, but also being drawn to works that suggested layers, that suggested multiple senses of self and self-perception. Um, and I found that, yeah, I was not disappointed in terms of seeing art that reflected the dichotomy that I suppose is in all of us. Those things that can be seen through a stereotypical lens, but when you flip them from another perspective, you're often surprised and intrigued by how much depth is there beneath the surface. So there were thousands, literally thousands of entries across multiple categories: sculpture, portraiture, print, poetry. I had to be quite methodical at first in terms of approaching all of that work, but I also didn't want to have too many preconceptions about which sorts of things would speak to me. So I sort of went through and allowed the works, some of them to leap up at me, and also some which were sort of slow burners to sort of creep up on me conceptually. Sometimes it was the title that made the difference as well, recognizing there's often a real powerful sense of narrative behind the reasons that somebody's chosen to create this work, or the medium itself, the tools, the building material that the work was made out of. So I can only say a fair bit of time is what helped me to curate it, but also, giving a sense of letting the works suggest their own sense of theme and narrative. There were so many themes that came to the surface during this selection, from ideas such as anthropomorphizing animals. You could see a lot of representations of what appears to be a sort of concrete jungle, but really vivid, colorful depictions of animals that tell me really more about the environment and about the artist than they do about the wildlife itself. Um, so often, really interesting conceptual works and portraits and conceptual works that reflect on self from difficult or different perspectives, that require a second glance. It's easy to be compelled to drawn to really arresting, visually colorful works of art immediately, but often it was those more delicate, um, less arresting works that forced me to reflect more deeply. It took a lot of delicacy to create in the first place, or things which suggest aspects of the artist's psyche that I wouldn't have guessed myself. I'm loath to pick any favorite works. I think they all really spoke out to me for different reasons. Um, some of which I think, really stay in the memory. Others I think are my favorites because it suggests elements of life that I wouldn't expect from people who've been incarcerated, such a sense of humor, some really acerbic political wit, a sense of awareness, a sense of social commentary, and critiquing their own environment that I guess, um, often really surprised and entertained me in equal measure. I think there were a lot of things that really surprised me. The level of social awareness, the level of political critique that you wouldn't necessarily expect, but also the depth of artistic expression. I think I was really motivated to curate this year's exhibition, drawn to the ideas of I guess, multiple senses of self, and also the ways in which I suppose inmate art, for want of a better term, can often surprise us, rather than the lens which we're usually encouraged to see incarcerate people through. I was interested to be surprised, shocked, and educated really by the ways in which those ideas can be subverted. I'm Soweto Kinch and the curator of this Koestler exhibition.